Hello and welcome back to Cooking Club, the Independent Chef. So today we're going to be making some homemade pasta and sauce. So we're going to go over how to cook some ground beef and how to properly cook pasta as well. So a really good skill to have is how to fry ground meat. Basically, it's going to be the same cooking it no matter what kind of meat that you get. So common kinds are ground turkey, chicken, beef, pork. There's also some vegetarian options such as like ground tofu or tempeh if you don't want to use meat. And those things are really great in pasta, in sauces, tacos, chili, meatballs, nachos, lots of different things that you can use ground meat in. It's also good to keep on hand because it's fairly cheap compared to other types of meat. So ground chicken and turkey is going to be the cheapest, and then pork and beef after that. When you're at the grocery store buying your meat, make sure it's one of the last things that you add to your grocery cart, as you can get food poisoning from it, and so you want to not have it at room temperature. So basically, the fastest that you can get it kind of from the fridge at the store into your fridge at home, the better. So when you bring it home, you're going to store it in the fridge. You want to put it on the bottom shelf, and that's because in case any juices come out of that meat, you don't want it dripping onto anything else below. As I said, it can give you food poisoning, so you want to make sure that it's stored properly. And you want to use that within 2 days. It doesn't last very long in the fridge, but you can freeze your meat. So if you do have freezer space, it can be really great to buy a larger amount of ground meat, divide it into portions, and then freeze that. When you need to thaw it, take it out a day before and thaw it in your fridge, again on the bottom shelf, on a plate to catch any of those juices that might run out of that meat. You can defrost it in the microwave if you forgot to take it out a day early, but just note that usually the microwave will start cooking some of the meat before the middle is actually unthawed or thawed, not frozen anymore. So it's better if you can put it in the fridge. Don't leave it on your counter, because again, that's room temperature. That's the ideal temperature for bacteria to grow, which is what can make you sick. When you kind of take it out of that packaging, make sure you throw that away. If you've used any bags to store it, throw those away. You don't want to reuse them, again, because it was touching raw meat. Okay? So when you're buying your meat, you're going to see words like medium, like mine is here, or lean or extra lean. So those are referring to the amount of fat in the meat. So medium is going to be the cheapest because it has the most amount of fat compared to meat. Extra lean is going to have the least, and it's also the most expensive. Basically, you're paying for weight, and so the weight of the meat, you're going to have more fat in the medium ones, which is why it's cheaper. But you're going to cook that out, which is okay, so you can buy what you can afford. We are going to have that fat that kind of drains out of that meat, so we're going to have to drain the grease away from our meat when we're cooking it, and I will show you when we actually cook it. But what you're going to want to do is store that grease, so you can either let it cool in the frying pan and remove the meat, or you can pour it into a bowl and let it cool. And actually, since I'm using tomatoes today, I've got my empty tomato can that I'm going to pour my grease into, and then you pour it in the garbage. You don't want to pour this down your drain because it can really clog your pipes. Even though when the fat is hot, it's liquid, when it goes in your pipes, it's going to cool down, it's going to turn into this really mushy stuff, and it can cause major problems in the pipes. So store it, don't pour it. All right, for our pasta sauce today, we've got a few things. So we've got our crushed tomatoes, like I have here. We've got some chopped onions that I've already chopped since I showed you last week how to do that. We've got our ground beef. We've got some garlic that I've already chopped, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Some red pepper flakes, butter, salt, sugar, basil, and our spaghetti. So we will, I'll show you how to do the garlic, and make sure if you're cooking at home that you wash your hands, you have your hair up, have your apron on. I've already washed my hands, so we're good to go. So with garlic, this is what an unpeeled clove of garlic looks like. It's kind of got a skin on it. and it's pretty easy to get that off, so I'll show you an easy way. And just note, when you cut garlic, the smell can linger on your hands for a few days, so be aware of that. So, super easy way. Take a larger knife. You've got to be really careful. You're going to take that knife, stick it on top, press down and crush your garlic. So that's going to take that skin and it peels right off. Super easy. Alright, so with our garlic, we've got kind of a brown end there. You want to just chop that off. It's just a tough section. So since we've already crushed it, all you need to do is really finely kind of cut that garlic. So just cut it as small as you can. And this is how you mince garlic. You just put it into the smallest pieces that you can. Just like that. All right, so we are going to get started with our cooking, and we're going to start by frying our meat. So we'll get ready to do that. All right, so we're going to start by frying our ground beef. So because mine's in a tube, we're just going to cut this tube open and put our ground beef in our pan. Alright, so I have the pan on medium-high heat. Alright, so we're going to make sure this goes in the garbage, my knife goes in my sink, and I'm going to wash my hands as I was touching that raw meat. Excellent. Alright, so I'm going to take a spatula, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break up that meat into smaller pieces, and we're going to cook this until it's no longer red at all. So that's the key with ground meats. Cook until there's no pink remaining at all in the meat. And continue to break it up. And we're going to fry this until it's ready to go. Alright, so our ground beef is pretty much cooked, so there's no pink or red spots left that I can see. And because we're actually cooking it in a sauce, if there was just a little bit, it would be okay because it would cook further in the sauce. So, but there's lots of grease in here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to kind of take my beef out, put it into a bowl. All right. See, so now we've got tons of grease left. So I'm going to take my pan, and I'm actually going to put it in a bowl just in case I spill. And I'm going to pour all of that grease into that can. And then I'm going to let it sit. Don't touch the can right after you've added the hot oil or the hot grease, because it's going to be really hot. Alright, so we're going to switch now to using a big saucepan for our sauce. So we're going to put that on there. And we are going to leave that at medium-high heat. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of oil. And we're going to let that oil heat up a bit. I also do have my water boiling in the background, because water can take a long time to boil. So once our oil gets nice and hot, we're going to add our onions, and we are going to saute these in the oil for about 3 minutes until they're kind of translucent and tender, so not so crispy anymore. And I'm going to use the same spatula because the meat is now cooked, so there's no cross-contamination. Alright, so our onion is nice and soft and getting to be translucent. So this was about 1 medium onion that I chopped up. And now we're going to add our garlic. So the recipe calls for 3 to 5 cloves. I cut up 5 because I'm a big fan of garlic. So we're going to add this to our onions and we're going to cook for about 1 minute. Now I know you can't smell it, but it smells amazing. So garlic can burn fairly easily, which is why you don't want to actually cook it too long before you add in kind of your other ingredients. Alright, so we're going to add back in our ground beef. Start adding our seasoning. So we've got half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of sugar, just to add a little bit of sweetness, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of dried basil, got some crushed red pepper. Just going to add a few shakes. This can be a little spicy, so if you don't like spice, use very little. If you like spice, you can add a little bit more. So stir that in, mix that all in really well. Alright, we're going to add in just a little bit of butter. This just adds some nice extra flavor to our sauce today. So just let that melt in. Alright, that's all melted. So now we're going to take our tomatoes and you're going to add half of the 28-ounce can. So I'm just going to eyeball it, not being too specific. You're going to mix that in. Make sure that you get any kind of stuck bits on the bottom. Those add real nice flavor to sauces. So mix that in. I've got a non-stick pot, so nothing's sticking, which is fine. All right. Now we're going to reduce our heat down to low, all the way to low. We're going to add in the rest of our tomatoes, and then we're going to stir in a little bit of water. So I've got a 1/4 cup of water. You can use a little bit more. This is just to get the sauce to kind of a good consistency. Our sauce at the moment is decently thin, so we'll just add the 1/4 cup at this time, but possibly closer to the end, we might add a little bit more, depending how thick or thin the sauce is. So you're just going to mix that all in. And then we are just going to let it sit, and you can let it simmer on low. It doesn't need to be covered for 10 minutes up to an hour. So the longer you let it simmer, the more the flavors will kind of come out, but it still tastes good, even just letting it sit for those 10 minutes. So we're going to let it sit for that little bit on low, and we are going to cook our pasta in the meantime. So I've already got my pasta water boiling, so you're just going to take a pot, fill it pretty full with water. Mine's quite full there. And you're going to bring it to a rapid boil on high heat. So a way to make your water boil a little bit faster, put a lid on it. It traps the heat, and that way it boils just that little bit quicker, saves you a couple minutes. So when making pasta, sometimes you'll see recipes that tell you to add salt or oil to the water. You don't actually need to do that, okay? As long as you know how to cook pasta, you don't need to use those things. So we're going to take our whole box of spaghetti here. Actually, we're going to read how long it tells us to cook it for. So this one says 8 minutes. So we're going to dump this box in. We've got our lovely pasta hook thing. Don't know what it's called. So you're going to push the pasta all the way in. And the key to cooking your pasta correctly is to not start timing that 8 minutes until your water is rapidly boiling again. Okay, so don't start timing right away. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. All right, our water's just kind of coming back to a good boil. All right, so now I will put the timer on for 8 minutes, and about 6 minutes we're going to check the pasta to see if it's ready. All right, so we've got just about 2 minutes left on our timer. So I'm going to test our first piece of pasta. So you're going to take a piece out. Careful, it's going to be a bit hot. So I'm going to put it on a plate, and I'm going to cut into it. Then I'm going to kind of take a look. So there's still a pretty large circle of uncooked pasta in the middle there. So it's probably not quite done. Another way to test, put it in your mouth. Yeah, the inside's still a bit crunchy. So we're going to let it cook a little bit longer. So dried pasta can take anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes to cook, and fresh pasta, which is going to be softer, again, not hard and dried. So fresh pasta only takes about 3 to 5 minutes to cook. Okay. Also things like penne or macaroni cook a little bit faster because there's nothing in the middle. So the water has easier access to kind of cook all sides of the pasta. So follow the box, and again, a few minutes before the time, kind of start checking. You want the pasta to be slightly firm, but not crunchy at all. So that's called al dente, and that actually means to the tooth. Don't know why they chose it, but hey, that's what it's called. If you do like super soft and squishy pasta, you can cook it longer, but then it starts to kind of break down. So usually Al dente is pretty good. All right, we're gonna test another piece now. All right, so this one, well, still a little bit in the middle there. Getting closer. We're still not quite there. I'm gonna actually throw these back in. There we go. We'll just do a little bit longer. So then when it's done, you're going to drain your pasta. So you can do that either by having a super handy pasta pot like I do, where it has holes in it and it attaches on. So we're going to screw it on and then you just pour it right into the sink, which makes it super, super easy. Or you can use a colander like this. So just take something like this, pop it in your sink, and dump the pasta in there. All right, let's try one more piece, see if we're ready. I apologize if you can hear the garbage trucks in the background. All right, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, we're ready. All right, so we're gonna turn it off. Get all that pasta out of there. All right, check to make sure if your handles are hot. Mine are okay. And we're gonna dump. Watch yourself with the steam coming off. It can be really hot and burn pretty badly. Excellent. All right, and since it took our pasta approximately 10 minutes to make, that means that our sauce has been simmering for that 10 minutes. So we can just go ahead and add our pasta into our sauce. We're gonna use our pasta scoop, we'll stir that in. Oh, that looks excellent. And the sauce seems about the right consistency, so I don't need to add any more water to it. So you'll just mix that in. Can grab yourself a plate. Oh, there we go. Plop some on. Put some shaved Parmesan cheese on there. Be real nice. So this is how to make your own homemade meat pasta sauce and some tips on how to cook pasta. So this whole dish that will feed at least 6, if not a little bit more, in total cost about $8. Oh boy, $8.50. I hope that you enjoyed our video, and press link and subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much.